Hello and welcome to TransForm Tuesday. I'm Dave McCormick, VP of Products and Services here at Alpha Software. I'm pleased to be joined today by Sarah Mitchell, who's in charge of our documentation department. I'm here to give you a demonstration of some of the things you can do in Alpha TransForm, but I'm also here to answer your questions. So if you do have any questions, you can go ahead and type them into the questions box of the GoToWebinar control panel. Well, for those of you who joined us last week, we went through basically all of the Alpha transforms from the last year and a half, and we started talking about new topics that we wanted to cover. I'm going to jump ahead down to that slide. And the three topics that we were going to get into were, and there'll be others as well, were a diagnostic form. That's the one we'll be covering today. An IoT TransForm robot. That'll be a microcontroller device that pretends to be a TransForm user and can actually fill in tickets and send them into the TransForm system. And the last one was an OCR example where you could take a picture, say, of a serial number or a license plate or something like that, and be able to automatically convert that into text so that it could be searched in a database. Today, we're going to be covering the diagnostic form. And before I go any further, Sarah, can you let me know whether or not my sound is coming through and whether or not you could see my screen?
Affirmative on both fronts.
Excellent, thanks very much. So the example that I used last week for the diagnostic form was an application that we call mycovid19risk.com, which was an application we built over the last several weeks. And I think I showed a quick demo of it. If not, I've got it here in a browser window somewhere. And basically, it is an application that asks a patient a series of questions. And at the end, it lets them know their risk of getting COVID-19 virus, their likelihoods of having symptoms, and what might happen if they do get symptoms. And this was built under the direction of a doctor in New York City who's using this with his own patients, and it's sort of spread to the point where we now have thousands of users of this application. But I don't know about you, I am sick of talking about COVID. So today's diagnostic application isn't going to have anything to do with that. It's going to talk about an example of fixing equipment rather than people. So imagine the scenario of you have a large office building and it's got printers on different floors, and your help desk or your support desk is in charge of making sure that these printers are working. Now, they could go from printer to printer, but it would be much better if, and I'm sure they do, but it would be much better if a person, when they're running into a problem with a particular printer, could do some of the diagnosis themselves. Now, of course, you could go through the user's guide or the owner's manual, but it'd be much better if you could just have something like that right on your phone, where you choose a printer and you go through and it asks you questions about that particular printer. The other thing a diagnostic form like this could do is at the end, if it's unable to solve your problem, it could be able to send a request in to the support desk so that they are alerted that something needs to be fixed, something that's beyond the capabilities of an average user for maintenance. So the example that I built here is really simple. I built it this morning, and I'm going to pop over to my phone and I'm going to show it to you live. So let me just turn on screen mirroring. All right, so that's on, and I'm going to go back to TransForm, which is here. Okay, add a form. And so I created this form before called a diagnostic form. I'm going to show you how that was built in a moment. But basically, when you tap on it, it says, hey, welcome to the printer diagnostic form. The purpose of this form is to find and correct errors with your printer. To begin, choose the type of printer below. So there's a list of common types of printers that I've entered in, but I've actually only defined it for one of the printers, the HP NV45. So if I choose a different printer other than that, it's going to say, I'm sorry, but at this time we only have instructions for the HP NV4500. Obviously, we can load in instructions for all of the printers, but this is just an example. But it says here, when you click finish, your choice of printer will be sent to the technician for review so that they can provide further instructions. So I'm going to just go ahead and do that. Finish, and then that's uploaded the record. So now the IT support desk knows that, hey, I was unable to find instructions, but here's the printer I was working at. Because I'm logged in, they'll know my name, so they know how to contact me. And now I'm all set. I can just wait for them to help me out. Let's go ahead to Go back in and choose a different case though. Let's say we actually did choose the printer that we had the model of, and that's the HP Envy 4500. I'm going to tap OK. And now you'll see there's a button here, a big button for me to click to continue on. So what I've done for each one of my printers is I actually put them on a separate page of questions. So here's the HP Envy 4500 page. And I've kind of duplicated efforts here. I don't really think that I need this heading, so we might go back and remove that later on. But it starts with the very first question: is the screen lit up? And I'm going to say that no, it is not. So once it says no, it says, well, try pressing the power button. Did that resolve the issue? I know they're simple, but we've all been there where we've done something simple and that was the thing that was missing. So I'm going to click no. Didn't resolve the answer. It says, okay, now I'd like you to unplug and reattach the power cord. Did that solve the issue? Nope. It's like, all right, well, check the outlet by plugging in something else. Is there power coming from the outlet? Yes, there is. I said, well, the printer is not powering on, and we've tried all of the standard remedies. The printer needs to be serviced by a technician. I've added in a fake phone number here, but really that technician could be alerted just by clicking the finish button, which is what I've done here. So I'm going to click finish, and just like before, it's taken all of my choices along with my logged in username and stuff, and it sent it over to the help and support desk so that someone could get back to me. So how do you put together a diagnostic form like this one? And it is pretty easy, and nicely, it does not actually involve any TPL programming. So let me show you how I did it. Let's pop over into TransForm Central. Here we are. And this is my form. It's just called a diagnostic form. And I double click on that. And here, if you take a look through, that's just the heading text, welcome to the printer diagnostic form. And then the very first field is a list field. And here are all my choices for printers in the list field. And then I put in an if statement. And that if statement says, if the make and model is not equal to the HP Envy 4500, I want you to display this text down here. It says at this current time, the form only has instructions for the HP 4500. Okay, but one other possibility, one other case might be that they simply haven't selected a model yet. So I had to put in two conditions. First of all, they had selected something. In other words, the make and model is not equal to nothing, which means that the make and model is equal to something. They've chosen something. And here's my double ampersand, which is how you say and in the Java transform. And the make and model is not equal to the HP Envy 4500. So now if that is the case, then that's the message it's going to display. And at that point, when they click finish, when that's submitted to the server, they're going to know what they've selected for the printer make and model, and they know the reason they couldn't go any further. So that would be a way that you could have a technician alert if they're looking for the incoming data on the other side. All right, so let's say they did choose the HP Envy 4500. What we've done is we've actually created a page, and this is just a way of grouping fields and controls on a form. So there's the beginning of the page, there's the end of the page. And I've wrapped that entire page itself inside an if statement. If the make and model is equal to the HP Envy 4500, then I want you to display the first question, which is the display lit up? And give them the two answers. Let me choose that field so you can see that it's a button list with two questions, yes and a no. So if the answer is no, then the next thing is then just tell them to press the power button. And then the very next thing you want to do is ask them if that solved the issue, because if it did solve the issue, there's no point in going any further. If it didn't solve the issue, then it's on down to the next case. And so that's another one. Okay, if the power on is equal to no, then try unplugging and reattaching the power cord. Did that resolve the issue? And if cord attach is equal to no, well, then try the power outlet. And if the power outlet is a no, then the printer isn't getting power. Or in this case, if it's a yes, the printer is also not getting power, but probably for some different reason. Okay, so I know a lot of you on this call know a little bit about the if statements and how they work. I'm going to go through them a little bit more in a second. But I'd like to tell you a couple of things that are helpful when you're building out this type of diagnostic application. The first thing is the use of quick start text. So let's say, for example, this printer is weird and it has 2 power buttons. Did you turn on the other power button? I know it's a weird case, I'm just making it up. What I would want to do there is, let's say I want to insert a question, is I would say plus, and instead of just adding in my controls there, I would actually want to go into quick start input for this one, because I found it was a little bit easier when I was typing in my questions. So here in quick start input, I'm going to say, did you turn on the other power button? And I can shortcut that and say yes, no. And then if the answer is no, then it should be, we're going to put in a comment, an instruction. Please turn on the other power button. Sorry, we'll just mark this. And then the next thing is, did that fix the problem? Yes, no, just using quick start text here. All right, so now I'm going to save that. Bonk. And I'm back here in my list of fields that hopefully have placed it in the correct order. It has. And so now what we want to know is, first of all, we don't want this question to always appear. We only want this question to appear if the answer is here. If the answer is, unplug and replug. There we go. Or cord attach. So if cord attach is equal to no, then we're going to ask the next question. So I'm actually going to grab this all the way down to here, and I'm going to wrap that inside my if statement. And I'm going to scroll down to if, and I'm going to enclose that. And now I have to put in a condition for my if. I'm going to say if, this is weird, but you have to click this button twice. It's sort of an odd thing in order to make this list appear. And let's find the cord attached field. Here it is. Oh, that was the other, before I go any further, let me just point out the other thing that I wanted to point out that will make your life easier. Please, when you build the fields in Quick Start, do go back and name your fields. So we're going to call this field other button. Okay, so we're going to go do that. So now I'm going to go back to that if condition. I'm going to insert cord attach. That was the one that we had last. And I'm going to say cord attach equal no. In other words, attaching the cord didn't fix the problem, so I'm ready for you to ask me another question. All right. And then because we interrupted the flow here, we have to go to the next button and tell it that instead of cord attach being the one that they need to look for, they need to in fact look for, let me insert a field. Did that fix the problem? Oops, did not enable that one either. Doing bad here, guys. Hang on. I'm gonna hit plus. I'm gonna give it a name. This one should actually be other button. Let's call it. That'll work. No. Sorry, I'm just kind of working quicker than I can think sometimes. All right, so now that that's all set, we want to make sure that, turn on the other button. Did that fix the problem? If they click no, we want to insert field name. Other button will equal no. All right. Unplug. Did you turn on the other power button? Let's turn on the other power button, and so on. Let's save commands. Let's see what that does. I think I may have made a mistake. Should we look in the questions to see if someone's typed it in? Yep, you have two field names, other button. Is that how it should be? No, it isn't. Thank you. It's weird when you give a webinar, I swear you lose about 20 IQ points. Let's go back here. Da, 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 da. Let me find it here real quick. If other button equals no, check it in. That's right. It's this one up here that I said cord attach. If cord attach is equal to no, then we want to ask this question. And if you say no to that, it's called other button. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's flip this one up. Let's remove this question. Bear with me for a second. Please turn on the other button. Did this fix the problem? Okay, this looks like it's going to work. Okay. So after we've decided that reattaching the power cord didn't fix the problem, so cord attach equals no, we're going to now say, please turn on the other power button. And then we're going to say, did that fix the problem? If the answer to that is no, then please check the power out by plugging in a different device. All right, so we're going to save that. Let's push that up to my phone. Let's take a look at this running on a phone again. So I'm going to just turn on screen sharing. Hopefully that's going to work. There we go. Add form. I'm going to hit refresh because I made a change. Choose that diagnostic form. I'm going to choose the HP NV 4500. Is it lit up? No. Did this resolve the issue? No. Unplug and reattach the power cord? No. Please turn on the other power button. Did that fix the problem? No. Okay, so there we've added that question in the middle. Check the power outlet by plugging in a different device. Is there power coming from the outlet? And then so on, and we're finished. All right. So just a couple things I wanted to run through if you're doing it. One is using quick start text is really helpful when you're laying out the questions, and then you can go back and hook them up later. The downside to quick start text, just shut off mirroring here. The downside to quick start text is it doesn't name your fields. It just puts in the labels for the fields. And so when you go back and try to use those fields in an expression, they're going to be called like field 1, field 2, field 3, which are not particularly helpful when you're trying to debug your form like I was a moment ago. So it's better to have things like real form names like we have here. The next thing is that I decided to, just as a choice, I didn't have to, but I decided to wrap these in pages. There's no real reason why I had to do that. I mean, it would be just as well to just keep all of this in a section. I just thought it was nice. And I showed you a little bit. Oh yeah, let me go back into how to do if expressions. So these if expressions are much more closer to, say, JavaScript than they are, say, BASIC. And so basically you can check the value of a field by using insert field names and select a value. And then instead of equals, we use equals equals. So equals equals no means that the is power field is equal to no. The exclamation point equal means not equal. And you can also do ands and ors. Now they've shown you an and example here. That's by using two ampersands. So switch is equal to yes and field 2 is greater than 14. But if you wanted to do an or instead, you'd be putting in two pipe symbols instead of those two and symbols. Lastly, you can also check to see if a field is blank by saying equals equals double quote, without any space or anything in between. That means is there nothing inside that field, which is a trick that we had to use up at the beginning just to make sure that something had been selected before we triggered the if statement. All right, that is that. Let me go through the questions here. Also, a quick start menu. Is it possible to set the field name rather than having to go through the override the generic names, created field X, field Y, etc.? There isn't, but there is a feature request so that it looks at your field label and it builds a field name based on your field label. So if you typed in, first name, it would create a field called first name. If it was first space name, it would stick them together and probably make them camel case. So that is how the feature has been proposed. And I know that would be a time saver, especially if you're doing lots of fields. So thank you, that was a good question. Someone else asking about the timeline of the next release. We are currently doing internal beta testing, but I'll be honest with you, there are a couple of bugs that are kind of wrecking older layouts. So we do not want to release this yet on the general public. We are hoping in the next couple of days, though, to have it out as a beta test. Our process is, once it goes out as a beta test, you guys have got 2 weeks to play with it, make sure that you're happy with everything, and then we push it out as a full release, provided we don't find anything from you or from further testing that is broken. Let's see, what else have we got here? Yep, someone, thank you, had pointed out that I had made a mistake with my 2 fields with the same name. And the last one is, video transform video list link is broken. I will take a look at that. I think I did something wrong with my published settings when I pushed that up before. However, if you do go to our channel on YouTube, we also have got a transform playlist there, and it's also annotated like the other one is. And actually that one is searchable, which might make it a better choice for you, provided you're allowed to access YouTube through your corporate network or whatever. So that's all I've got for today. Does anyone have any other questions? And if not, you can always send your questions to tfservice@alphasoftware.com. Thanks very much for joining me today. Thank you, Sarah, for standing by as backup. Again, hope to see you next Tuesday or on our next Transform Tuesday. Actually, then we're actually probably going to be doing a special event. Might be emailing you about it, but instead of me going on about one of the features, I'd like to show off an actual in-production system that one of our customers has built over in the UK, and I think it'll be a really exciting session. Might be a little bit longer, but I'll give you a heads up on that beforehand. Also coming up this week, besides Webinar Wednesday, which is going to feature the first part of it, another live app by someone named Shako Brooks from South Africa, who has built a really cool system for tracking rugby players. And he's going to show you how he put that together and actually how he was able to use it to do contact tracing for COVID. And then on Thursday of this week, we also have yet another webinar. It seems to be nothing but webinars this week. And this one is from Richard Marshall, formerly of Gartner, who will be talking about how work and businesses may be changing during the pandemic, and how some of those changes might make for long-term changes, and how we can do the best we can, capitalize, take care, however you want to call it. So that's kind of interesting. General purpose, not technical. And that one's Thursday at 1 o'clock. I believe the information about that is on our blog, blog.alphasoftware.com. Thanks again for joining us. See you next week. Bye-bye.